Welcome to the bonus workshop for session 11. We covered a bunch of good things this session. We're getting into the mastering part of our Learn and Master Guitar. We talked about pentatonic scales. We learned 5 pentatonic forms and some common pentatonic patterns that you can use to start your soloing journey with. We learned about playing in any key and with pentatonic scales and connecting them all over the neck. And we got into a little bit of ear training. Now, the most important skills for you to come away from this session are you got to memorize those 5 pentatonic forms. There's 5 forms. I know it's a little bit of material. You're going to have to memorize it if you want to be able to work with them. You need to learn how these pentatonic forms move up and down the neck. That's an important skill for you to come away from this with. Next thing, we're just putting our toes in the water of getting familiar with soloing and improvising. This is our first step into that, and pentatonics will get us there. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's review a little bit about what we learned about pentatonic scales. What is a pentatonic scale? A pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, pentatonic 5-note scale, derived from the major scale. It's like a subset of the major scale. Here's what it is. A pentatonic scale uses the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th steps of the major scale. So if I'm in C, a C pentatonic scale would have the notes C, D, E, G, and A in it. If I was in the key of G, which of course we know from our key signature lesson, has an F sharp in it, a pentatonic scale in the key of G would be G, A, B, D, the 5th step, and an E, the 6th step of the G scale. Now, let's talk about the minor and major relationship between these two. We touched on it a little bit in the workshop, in the main presentation. Let's review a little bit about what we learned about this relationship. There's a specific relationship between the 1st and the 6th step of the major scale, which is called relative. In the presentation, I call this parallel, the relationship parallel. A more accurate way to describe it, really musically, is that these notes are relative to each other. The 1st and the 6th have this special, unique relationship. The 1st step of the major scale is called the relative major, and the 6th step is called the relative minor. So let's get some practice with just naming these different tones. So if I'm in the key of F, the relative major would be the note F. Of course, that's the root. And the relative minor would be D. Or to say it another way, F major is the relative major of D minor, and conversely, D minor is the relative minor of F major. See how these two are relating to each other. Let's do another one. Let's say I'm in the key of E flat. The relative major would be the note E flat, and the relative minor would be the 6th step up, which would be C. Or if you want to think about it, it's 2 steps down in the major scale if you want to think about it that way. Or you can say that the E flat major is the relative major of C minor. And the other way around, C minor is the relative minor of E flat major. C minor, E flat major. Relative major and minor scales share the same key signature, very key point. Relative major and minor scales share the same key signature. Now we're going to apply this to pentatonic scales. Pentatonic scales have the unique position to be able to work in both environments, major and minor. So one scale can serve 2 purposes. You get 2 for the price of 1. We just need to know what note we are pivoting off of in order to orient ourselves to where we can use it in either a major or a minor form. When you're looking at the pentatonic forms, you will notice that there is one note that has a diamond on it and one note that has an open circle. Okay, the diamond is the major root that you'll be pivoting off of. I pivot off of that note when I want to think of the scale from a major perspective. The open circle is the minor root. I pivot off of that note when I want to think of the scale from a minor perspective. So you got it? I haven't lost you so far. There's 2 notes that have a special relationship. One is the relative major. The 6th step is the relative minor. And we'll be jumping from minor to major, major to minor, all through these pentatonic exercises. Let's talk about the first pentatonic form. Since there are 5 notes in the pentatonic scale, then if I start the scale from each of its notes, I end up with 5 different pentatonic forms. It only makes sense. So there's only 5 different forms that we need to learn. Let's take a look at the first pentatonic form. We're going to be up at the 5th fret, or in guitar world, in the 5th position. So here is the shape of the first pentatonic form. Notice the diamond and the open circle on the 6th string. Remember, the diamond is the major root, the open circle is the minor root. Okay, let's go through this first form. Starts with this low A on the 6th string, and our 4th finger on the C. Next string we have 1 and 3, 1 and 3, 1 and 3, then 1 and 4, 1 and 4. Let's do that one more time. Start down that low A. You play it with me. Here we go. Good. This is a finger pattern. We haven't done much with finger patterns so far. This is a finger pattern. Let's go at descending now. Start on that high C there. Pinky on that 1st string. Let's go through it one more time, ascending and then descending. And back down. Very good. Notice our major and minor relationships. Your pinky, where your pinky is at, is where the diamond is. That's your major root. Where my 1st finger is at, that's the minor root. So this particular form is good for A minor and for C major. A minor, pinky, C major. So this scale will work well for 2 different environments, the major and the minor, A minor, C major. Let's do the same form in another key. What if I wanted to use this form for a B minor chord? Or if I'm soloing in a B minor world. Okay, then I would need to have my 1st finger, that's the minor root, the 1st finger, on a B on the 6th string. Okay, so where's a B on the 6th string? E, F, G. Remember how we did this? A, B. 1st finger's on it. Now I have to play through the form. Let's play through it together. Back down. Very good. Okay, let's do another one. What if I wanted to use this form to play in the key of B flat major? Okay, B flat major. Now I'm looking at the major root. Well, the major root is the pinky note on the 6th string. So all I need to do is put my pinky on a B flat on the 6th string and play the form from there. But this time it'll be functioning as a B flat major pentatonic scale. So where's that B flat on the 6th string? E, F, G, A, B, B flat. Put my pinky there, which would orient everything else down here. And let's play this scale. Now you can start on the 1st finger. That's okay. We're just thinking about pivoting off of that pinky. So here we go. Let's start here, 3rd position. Down. Very good. So let me ask you another question. If this scale is for B flat major, what is the minor scale that this form will work in? Well, I have to look at my 1st finger, and that's a G. So this scale works for B flat major and for G minor. 2 for the price of 1 on these pentatonic scales. Jumping these forms around is something that you're going to be doing a lot. So let's get a little bit more practice with it. One more. What if I wanted to use this form to play in the key of E flat major? Okay, well, the major root is your pinky on the 6th string. All I need to do is put my pinky on an E flat on the 6th string, and I can play the form from there. So the E flat major pentatonic Where's E flat? E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E flat. Put my pinky there. Adjust everything else after that, and I end up with this form. This would also be the same for C minor. Let's play it. Very good. Another one. What if I wanted to use this form to play in the key of F minor? F minor. Well, the minor root's the first finger on the 6th string. All I need to do is put my first finger on an F on the 6th string, play the form from there. So an F minor pentatonic would be here. This would also be the same form for A flat major. I want you to get familiar with the minors and the majors. Here's the last one. What if I wanted to use this form to play in the key of D minor? Okay, all I need to do is put my first finger on the D, that's my minor root, on the 6th string, and play the form from there. So let's figure it out. E, F, G, A, B, C, D. First finger's on a D, so I'm up here in the 10th position. On the 10th fret, let's play it from here. This would also be the same scale for F major. Okay, that's the first pentatonic form. Let's take a look at the second pentatonic form. We've looked at the first form. Let's talk about the second form now. Let's go back to our original key of C, C major or A minor, right? But notice that the form is we're going to start this at the 7th fret. Here's the shape of that second pentatonic form. I've got my second finger on that 8th fret C on the 6th string. Then 1, 4, 1, 4, first finger, third finger, and then look what happens here on the 2nd string. 2nd, 4th, 2nd, 4th. Okay, let's do that one more time. 2nd, 4th, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4. Can you go down? Let's go down. Now notice that the diamond and the open circle have moved around. Remember, the diamond is the major root, open circle is the minor root. But now they've moved positions, but their function is still the same. When I want to find the major pentatonic, I use the diamond. When I want the minor pentatonic, I use the open circle. Let's get some practice in this one. Now let's do this form in another key. What if I wanted to use this form for a G major pentatonic? Okay. Well, now my second finger, that's the new major root, is on the 6th string, and I have to find a G for that. Well, here's a G on the 6th string, put my second finger on it, and I play my form. You play it with me. Ready? Go. Back down. Very good. That's the second pentatonic form. Now, the first is always the one that most guitar players are familiar with. Let's kind of go through these other ones as well. So we've talked about the first, talked about the second. Let's quickly go through the others. Here's the third pentatonic form. Okay, we're going to go back to C. So now, if you look in your book, what's that, page 64, you go up to the 10th fret with your second finger, so you're actually in the 9th position. And let's play this one. This one's kind of an awkward one, so let's talk about the fingering. 2, 4. You also could do 1, 3 here. And then 1, 4. Now you have to shift. 1, 4, 1, 3. So this one has a position shift in it. 3, 1, 4, 1, shift, 4, 1, and then either 4, 2 or 3, 1, 3, 1. 3, 1 if you want to do it that way. Okay, let's do it one more time. Ready? Go. Here comes our shift. 1. Back down. 4, 1, then back, shift, back. Okay, the fourth form goes up here at the 12th fret. Okay, there's 5 forms, don't get lost. We're on the 4th of 5 forms. The 12th fret, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4. Back down. Let's play it one more time. Here we go. And the last form is the 5th form. Let's talk about that. Well, I could play it up here. What is that, the 14th fret? But that's also, everything is 12 frets apart on a guitar. That's also the same as if I played it in the 2nd fret, just down an octave. See how that works? All these forms can move and be used for any major or minor scale, just like the first form can. Eventually, you'll need to be as familiar with all the forms as you are with the first form. I know it's a lot of information, but there are only 5 forms. Takes a bit of time, but you'll get it. Let's talk about these pentatonic patterns that we covered. The first little pentatonic pattern I gave you has sets of 4. These are just 3 patterns that I've found helpful. Finger patterns are a simple way to gain speed in your playing and soloing without having to think about each individual note. You think of the whole form as a shape underneath your fingers. The first pattern is just going through the scale in groups of 4. So let's go back through this original first form, and we're going to play this. We're in groups of 4. And it goes up, and then it goes to the next note. We do 4. The next note. 4 there. 4 there. I'm taking each note of the scale and going up 4 notes. Okay, so that's the first line. Okay, let's do its descending. Now, I know these are all just kind of exercises at this point. I'm just giving you some tools. When we start to want to solo, we're going to need some tools in our tool belt, and this is what we're kind of building in right now. Let's talk about the second pentatonic form. That one is in groups of 3 instead of groups of 4. Okay? The second pattern goes through the same scale, but just in groups of 3. I start down here at the 5th fret. I'm slowly speeding up on you. Then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. If you can't keep up with me, just stop the DVD, get these notes underneath your fingers, do a little bit of wood shedding on it, a little bit of working on it, until you can keep up with me. Now we're going descending. Very good. Now, don't get lost in thinking that this is just all irrelevant stuff. This is just finger patterns. This is just mindless stuff to go through with scales. No. You can use this to start creating some cool things. All I need to do is slap on a little bit of delay here. Let me crank on a little bit of distortion. Get down here in a rock kind of a pickup thing, and I'm going to do the same patterns of 3. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Now suddenly I have a really cool lick, and everybody wants to know, hey, how'd you do that real cool lick? It's just a pattern, and you got to sit on your couch or sit on your bed and figure it out slowly to get it underneath your fingers. Okay, now let's talk about the third pentatonic pattern. Now these involve 3 pairs. It's 6 notes, 3 pairs. If you can imagine your form, we go through the first 3 sets, 1 and 4, 1, 3, 1, 3. That would be like one set of 6. Then I go 1 string down and I do the same 3 strings. Each time I get 1 string higher, 1 string down. Go 1 string down. Okay, let's do that one more time. See how this works? 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3. Then I go down a string. Down a string and do another set of 3. And here's my last set of 3. Now let's go down backwards. Got it? When you put it all together, you end up with a cool little lick. Wow, how can these guys play these really fast licks? Wow, I don't think I could ever think that fast. It's not about thinking at all. It's about running through these little patterns. You think when you do some parts of a solo, but other things you just slip into patterns. Okay, we will use these patterns when we practice the soloing section in a few sessions. Now I'm going to talk to you about connecting these patterns together. We touched on this a little bit in the workshop, and this is a tremendous exercise. These various patterns connect together like puzzle pieces up and down the neck. I spoke briefly in the guitar tips section about a very helpful way to visualize all of these scales together and to learn the notes of the entire neck of the guitar by connecting these scales together. So I taught you how these connect together, like on this first form. The one edge is like that, and the second edge, if you think of all these notes, that's actually the second edge of the first form, but it's the first edge of the second form, so it kind of interlocks together. So these pieces are interlocking all the way up your instrument, and eventually they'll get too high and you can flip them down to the bottom. So let's start with this first form at the 5th fret, and we'll play it ascending, like we did just a minute ago. Now we shift to the next form, up here at the 7th fret, and we play it descending. So you see what I did there? Let's do that again. Go back to the first form. And then I descend in the second form. Well, I can keep interlocking those. Let's say I go up to the 3rd form. Now I'm going to ascend in the 3rd form. Now I shift up to the 4th form, and I'm going to descend in the 4th form. Okay, I'm starting to get kind of tight up here. I can go up to the 5th form. I could go up here and do it at the 14th fret for the 5th form, or I could jump down the octave and play it down here. And then, if I shift up my forms, I'm back to my original form. See what we did there? I shifted through 5 forms and I went all the way up through the neck. This is an important concept. A good way to learn your neck is through these little pentatonic, connecting these pentatonic forms together. Let's go through another one. Let's start this exercise in F minor. Or what would it be? What would the major be? A flat major. So we start with the first form down here in the first position. I play it ascending. I shift up to the next form, and I play it descending. Shift up to the next form. Shift up to the next form and descend. Shift up to the last form, and I ascend. And now I'm back to my original form, but I'm up an octave. I can keep going if I wanted to. Let's just keep going until I run out of guitar. And that's as high as I can go. Okay, let's talk about pentatonic warm-up that I have been doing for years. Here's an exercise that I've been warming up on, probably about 4 or 5 years. Here's the deal. I start at the bottom of the neck, and I play through all of the keys and all of the pentatonic forms the full length of the instrument. That's the goal. All of the keys, all the forms, the full length of the instrument. Sometimes I slip in and I play a finger pattern instead of just the scales if I get bored with just playing the scales. I'll walk you through it quickly and let you go through the work of putting it all together. It takes time. It took me about 3 months to get the patterns of it all down, but it opened up the entire neck of the guitar to me in every key, and it was an invaluable exercise. If someone said, hey, can you play an F minor? Sure, I know F minor forms all over the neck. B flat major? No problem. I've got B flat major forms all over the neck that I can play with. Let me turn off my distortion here, get back to a normal setting, and we're going to start in the fifth form in the key of C. So this is the lowest form I can play in C major. I shift up to the next form and a descend. This will be the first form now. Next form and ascend. Next form, descend. And I finally run out of neck there. And then I start going back down backwards. Okay, now I've gone through every pentatonic form all the way up as far as the full range of the instrument in C. So then I'll pick another key. What about if I do it in G? All right, so I start down here, G. My lowest form that I can play a G pentatonic scale, a G major pentatonic, is the second form, so I start there. And that's about as far as I can get on my guitar. Then I start going down. See how that works? I've gone through every key or every scale in the pentatonic forms the full length of the instrument. And then you just keep doing that. And you work with your metronome. Like let's say I put my metronome here at, usually I start it very slow if I'm just warming up. So that's 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to do 16th notes at 60. Let's go to the key of D. So I'm going to start at the lowest form in the key of D. I may slip the forms around a little bit. See how that works? And I just twist these forms up and down. Then another thing I might go through the next time, I might play the finger pattern 1 in groups of 4 I might do it, let's say I'm in the key of D, and so I'll start it up in the key of D. And I'll go up to the next form and descend. And ascend in the next form. You get the idea. Then I'll continue all the way up the neck and all the way down. Now, for me to be able to do that, it was about 3 months of me working through each of these forms, and I'd forget them, and then I'd have to go back and look and remember them, and it just took weeks and weeks and weeks before I was able to get any sort of speed at it, and it took me a long time before I was able to go fast enough to where I could actually get through all the keys. But now I can rip through all that stuff in about 20 minutes, and it's a good workout on my hands. So let's go into the next song, which I want to take a look at, A minor pentatonic blues. Now, minor pentatonic scales sound great over any type of bluesy sort of progression. If you want to sound bluesy, here's a key. Reach for your minor pentatonic scale is a good place to start from. Okay, so let's look at the song A minor pentatonic blues in your book. It's on page 66. In your jam-along tracks, it's CD3, track 17. Now, although this song uses only 3 different chords, I'm just going to play one scale, my A minor pentatonic scale, through all of this whole thing. I'm not thinking about when chords change or anything like that. I'm playing one scale, just as a place to start from. Okay, and I'm going to show you how you can use these scales to play over an entire song and just pick your notes from there. I'll play the scale in its various forms the first time through, but on the second time through, I'll go back to the first form and try to make up a little solo just using the notes from that form. Okay, this is your first attempt at soloing, so be very simple. Okay, if you really want to learn how to solo, you got to learn. It's not all about hip licks and all that sort of stuff. You have to learn. You start simple. Okay, so we're going to start up the track, and we're going to look at this first line. Okay, now I'm going to go through and just play this minor pentatonic form. This is the first form. I just played through the form, and it didn't sound half bad. Now I'm going to shift positions, maybe. I'm just playing through the form. Now I'm just going to pick notes from this first form. I'm just using notes from the first form. So that's a way that you can use a pentatonic scale in that situation, an A blues. We're just playing an A minor pentatonic through that whole thing. Now let me show you a different style and a different way to use it. Go to the next song in your book called G major pentatonic. Okay, so this one isn't kind of a bluesy and doesn't have that minor feel. We're going to now focus on, get some practice on these major pentatonic scales, practicing from a major perspective. So look at the song G major pentatonic in your book. It's on page 66. CD3, track 18 on the old jam-along tracks. Now again, this song uses a whole lot of chords, but I'm not paying attention to any of that. I know that the song is in the key of G, so I'm just going to use my G major pentatonic scales as a place to start. I'll start with the G major pentatonic scale second form, in the second position, and I'll play through the scale a couple times, and then I'll play a simple solo using the notes in that form. So let's start up the track and look at that first line. I'm going to go through the See how I'm just going through the form. Okay, let me go to the second form. Okay, maybe I'll sneak up here to the third form. See how these chords, as they change underneath me, I get different colors. Okay, now I'm going to go down to this form down here. Just play a simple melody using the notes. So I go through these forms, and I try and pick out little notes and that work with that form. Now, this is going to be difficult at first, but you have to just think and trust me, use the notes in the scale, and you'll start finding which ones work and which ones don't. Okay? Good job. There's also another song in the book called Around the Pentatonic World that's a good workout on soloing in various keys. I've notated in the music which scale to use at which time, so take a look at that one. As we close up, let me encourage you, pentatonic scales are a big tool in your guitar playing tool belt. It's not the only way to approach soloing, but it's definitely one of the most characteristic ways that us guitar players use. So get familiar with them. They're worth the effort. They give you a framework to begin training your ear for soloing, which we will begin on concentrating more on in the coming sessions. One of the great players who really used pentatonics for all of his rock playing is the great Eric Johnson. A lot of his blazing speed and his fast solos, if you boil them all down, it's pentatonic scales, and they're all relating to that. If you've ever dreamed of being able to understand and play all over the neck, I'm now giving you a tool to get you there. Yes, it's going to take some effort. What you thought, did you think this was all going to come easy? If this was guitar playing was easy, then everybody would do it. That's why it's easier to own an iPod than a Grammy. So keep learning and growing in your ability. You're doing it. You're becoming a guitar player. It takes a lot of effort, but you're doing it. And you're becoming the guitar player that you've always wanted to be. I'll see you next time. Okay, here's some tips for learning the material that we've covered in this huge pentatonic session. First thing, number one thing, learn the forms. That's your first place to start. Get them underneath your fingers. Learn the patterns of them. Don't expect to be making great music at this point. You got to get the tools first, and then you can start making music once you got the tools. Take one form and play it ascending and descending, and then shift it up a half step. Something like this. So if I take like that first form in F minor, then I shift it up a half step, and I descend in the same form. This just helps build familiarity with that form. It gets your fingers familiar with doing it. Do that all the way up the neck until you run out of room to play it. Then you come all the way back down it. Do that for a few days, and then take the next form and work it up and down the neck for a couple of days. Keep working on the first form occasionally as well until you have focused on all the forms. This will help your fingers to learn the muscle memory and the muscle coordination needed that they're going to be able to do what they need to do. Then you start putting them, then you go to the next stage is putting these forms together. thinking of them as 5 different units in the same key. Here's the second thing to keep up with. Speed will only come once your fingers know the patterns. Don't try to play fast until you know the forms, or you will forever be hitting a brick wall. 15 minutes of focused, slow practice on the forms is better than 2 hours of just trying to play as fast as you can, and you keep messing up. Next thing, solo using notes of the scale, not the scale itself. So when you just play the scale, it just sounds like a scale. But the scale is a collection of tones, and you're going to be making music from those tones. So don't just try and, well, every time I try and solo, it just sounds like I'm playing the scale. Well, try and force yourself out of that. Pick those 5 notes in that scale and do something with those 5 notes, not necessarily the sequence of them in a line like that. So keep up the great work, and we'll see you next time. You're ready to move on from this session when you can play all of the pentatonic forms, ascending and descending. Memorize them. Play them in various keys. You're also ready to move on when you can connect the various forms up and down the neck. You're ready to move on when you can play these pentatonic patterns, the common pentatonic patterns that are on pages 64 and 65, at quarter note at 100 beats per minute. I know I didn't give you very many metronome markings on these ones here, but focus on learning the forms and how they relate to each other. This is more important than speed at this stage. So understand what you're doing first, and then we can get you fast at it. I'll see you in the next session where we'll be learning some of the chords that will take your chord playing up to the next level. I'll see you there.